Okay, so today is the vlog for February. I have to cheat sometimes. February 27th. Only one more day tomorrow in the month of February, and then it'll be March. March Madness. So let's get crazy a little bit early today. So the thumbnail may give you a hint of what I'm talking about today. Probably the title of the video will too. Um, I, before Christmas, asked a friend whose wife makes Sackboy dolls if she could make a specific character for me. I'm not going to give any names because I don't know how widely she does this. I don't want her to get flooded with a bunch of requests that she can't fill. She likes doing it, and I paid her, but I also don't want her to feel unduly pressured. But I do want her to know that she did a fantastic job, and this is what she made me. It's a sack Metroid. I love it. It's squishy. I go squishy. Okay. Anybody that follows me, anybody who knows me in real life knows that I'm all about toys. I love toys. I love figures. This is a lot closer to a doll, but it's a doll of an alien life form that sucks the life out of your head. So it's still got that sort of Eric Spornitz flair to it. But let's talk about Metroid for a second. Super Metroid fights for my favorite video game of all time with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I love both those games, and in my personal opinion, I think Super Metroid is a little bit better made, but I also think that I have a little more fun sometimes picking up Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I think the production value of Symphony of the Night is a little bit higher. That said, let's focus on Metroid since this little guy's in the room and I don't want to, make him feel bad. Metroid, as it was created back in 1980, a while ago, was basically a big send off to the film Alien. When you look at the details, especially the names of characters in Metroid, you realize that it really is a retelling, sort of the events of Alien. You have a strong female character as the protagonist, and she's facing off against a life form that likes to latch onto people's heads and drain them of their lives. Well, obviously, it's not putting an egg in people; it's just going on their heads and then killing them. But that's exactly what the aliens in the Alien film do. The alien in the Aliens. I really wish that the sequel to Alien was Alien 2 because that would make everybody's life a lot easier. I don't know why they didn't do it that way. But back to the Metroid. You have one woman facing off against an alien menace. The computer that is the central opposition in the story, aside from the aliens, is called Mother Brain. The computer that opposes the main character in Alien is called Mother. Samus, the main character in Metroid, has a nemesis that is named Ridley after Ridley Scott, the director of Metroid. So right there, that's a huge clue that this is what it's supposed to be. At the end of the movie Alien, the main character activates a self-destruct sequence that starts counting down as she has to escape before she's blown to smithereens. When you beat Metroid, a countdown begins before the place you are in is blown to smithereens. And someone pointed out to me once in a weirdly perverse thing that the final sequence of both Alien and Metroid see the strong female protagonist in her underwear. So take that as it is. Anyway, I love Metroid, and the original Metroid game had all these details, but a lot of those details didn't actually make it into the game itself. Ridley's name was something you had to glean from the manual, as was, I think, Mother Brain's name. I don't think the words Mother Brain appeared anywhere in the actual game text, of which there was very little. There was some text on the title screen. There was the password screen with the famous Justin Bailey password. And the way Metroid identified itself with Alien was the tone, this feeling of isolation, There's a game called Alien Isolation. The feeling of being alone in an alien environment, fighting for your life, and things that you don't recognize all around you. I think that's powerful, but given that the game was made in 1980, it's probably 86 or 87. I was probably 87, come to think of it. I think I was 6 years old the first time I ever saw somebody play it. And these guys were the title character. That's the other link. Alien is the villain of the piece and is the title of the film. Metroid is the villain of the game and is the title of the game. Metroid tried the best it could. It had some really, really good music, and it had some innovative gameplay elements that you hadn't seen in video games before. But Super Metroid has become one of the most influential games in history. For me, and I can't say this is the first game that ever did this, period, but for me, it was the first time I played a game with a sense of cinema about it. You start the game up, and the standard for most games is you get a title screen, and when it looked at Super Mario World, do 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 do, and it was a video game, and you just knew that it was just a game. You would play it, you would have fun, you would eventually stop playing it and pick up the next one. But Super Metroid starts off with just this one note repeated over again. Ding, ding, ding. And then the background music slowly fades in. Ding, ding, ding. And while this is playing, you get panning camera shots of this laboratory that has been ravaged by something with bodies laying on the ground. And that was an element of horror I had never seen in a video game before. And in fact, when you start, the very first area you're going through is this space station that has been attacked and people are dead. They didn't get defeated. Mario didn't jump on them and they got squished down and then disappeared with a little 100-point mark popping up. So you knew that this game was going to be serious, and you took it seriously. And throughout the game, you are led into areas where the music fades out. And there's a term, I think there's a TV trope for it called nothing is scarier. And it's the idea that real fear develops in a person's mind in the absence of anything. When you go, why isn't there anything? That triggers something in your brain and you start to worry. And in fact, usually in Super Metroid, when you go into an area and the music is cut out completely, something bad's about to happen. There's a very famous room, the boss Kraid, who is a holdover boss from the original Metroid. When you go into his room, it is empty and it is quiet for about 2 seconds. And then the ground starts to rumble and the music builds up, and this huge boss, whose upper torso is filling the entire height of the screen, so you know he's bigger than the screen itself, rises up out of the floor, and that begins the fight. And after you've damaged him a little bit, the rest of him comes up, and you actually have to climb through this obstacle course of danger to reach the level of his head and attack him directly. You know, I played games with big bosses before, but I'd never played anything that made me feel like legitimate anxiety. When you encounter bosses like Dragon and Ridley himself, eventually, they're set up in these cinematic ways. You drop into Ridley's room and it's empty. There's some basic ambient background music, and you try and cross the room to get into another door, but the door is locked. And that's when the glowing eye appears, and then from the shadow in the background, the rest of Ridley appears, and then the fight is on with some excellent music. So Castlevania Symphony of the Night is really fun. It has a lot of production value. It has some cheesy voice acting, but visually stunning, amazing music, and it's a lot of fun to play. But even at its best, it doesn't hold a candle to using gameplay elements and design to elicit a response out of the person playing the game, And if I ever had to try and defend the idea that video games could be art, Super Metroid would be my #1 reason for saying so. If you haven't played it before, I highly urge you to check it out. It's available in a lot of formats. I think it's on a lot of different Nintendo systems, virtual consoles. I know I have it in a couple different places for that. And if you want to try and track down the original Super Nintendo cartridge, you can try. I paid $25 for it about 15 years ago, and I think I got really lucky when I did. It's funny to think of a game that I've bought 4 or 5 times, but that's the truth. That's how much I like it. Anyway, I'm over the 10-minute mark, and I've gushed about Metroid. I've gushed about this little guy. He's soft. So I'm going to leave you here. And this is Eric Spornitz signing off. And remember, tomorrow will be better.